Hello everyone, welcome to CSS part 5. In this session, we are going to study one of the most important concepts in styling, and the name of the concept is Flexbox. So you might have seen some websites like we have seen Medium website, and when we scroll towards Medium website, like let's say we are changing the aspect ratio of our screen, and when we change the aspect ratio of our screen, you can see that the overall layout of the website is changing, and that is one of the reason beyond the responsiveness of a website is Flexbox. And believe me when I say that it is one of the most important concepts in styling. And in this, what I want you guys is that don't memorize things, okay? In this we will study some properties, and there are a lot of properties which you have to study through MDN website, but understand the core concepts, understand how Flexbox works, understand how the properties of Flexbox works. Okay, I will tell you in detail, no need to worry at all. We will talk about each and everything important concepts in detail. Okay, so before we begin, the thing you need to keep in mind is that this is a very important concept, and what we want in this session is, first of all, we should understand the concepts. Right, understanding is really important. So understanding of concept is the crucial thing, and after that we should implement. After watching this session, I want you guys to implement your own Flexbox, like take some divs, apply some Flexbox properties on it, and observe how Flexbox works. There are different properties of Flexbox, right? We'll talk about in just few minutes, but I want you to observe, understand, and play with it. When you play with it on your own now, then you will understand it in depth. Okay, so before we begin this session, I want to show you a responsiveness of a website. So what is the meaning of responsiveness is that, let's say that here I'm going to a website, let's say medium.com. okay, so this is a Medium website. Okay, we got our Medium website on screen. Now if you observe here that this is a Medium website, and we are getting this in a computer screen. Now what I want is that I will click on inspect, and I will make this as responsive. Now you can see that this is a website. This is what we will look, this is what the website will look like on iPhone XR. Right, similarly, let's say I'm changing the aspect ratio to Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Then in Samsung Galaxy S8, the website will look like this. So if you observe carefully, let's say I'm changing to, let's say iPhone tab. Here do we have, iPad Pro. Okay, so you can observe that in iPad Pro the website is looking something different. So based on each and every screen resolution, screen size, the overall appearance of the website is changing, the overall look of the website is changing, and this is because of the concept called as responsiveness of a website. In part 6 there is a concept called as media queries. Part 6 will be the last part of our CSS, but in that section there is a concept called as media queries, and when we study media queries now, you will get a clear idea of how responsiveness works. But in this session we are going to focus on Flexbox and the properties related to Flexbox. And you have to remember one thing here is that Flexbox is one of the, you can consider a reason in some sense for responsiveness. Okay, so you can create some sort of responsiveness in your website using the concept of Flexbox. Now if I want to show you, let me remove this. Okay, so I will remove this here, responsiveness, and I will compress this website. You can see that as I compress, you can see that the overall options here, I am getting our story, membership, right, and the size of the screen decreases. The overall options are also disappearing. This concept is based on the concept of Flexbox and media queries. So we will study media queries in part 6, but so I hope you have understood that one of the key reasons, one of the key steps towards creating a responsive website is the concept of Flexbox. Okay, so I hope you have understood how Flexbox is important. Now let us talk about in detail what is Flexbox, how to imagine a Flexbox, and all those kind of things. So Flexbox layout is a layout in which we understand how to arrange elements in a single dimension. In one dimension, how to arrange a set of elements together. Right? This is the core of Flexbox. Now, if I say things, then you will not understand. So what I'm gonna do is that I will show you code, and from that code we will understand how Flexbox works. But before that, before going to the code, you need to understand that the formal definition of Flexbox is that it is a one-dimension layout method for arranging items in rows and columns. Okay, so for example, let's say I am having 3 divs. Okay, let's say this is div 1, div 2, div 3. These are 3 divs. Now arranging this 3 divs in a single line, we know that div is a block element. It will take entire div size. Okay, it will take the entire width of the screen. Now if I make a div as inline element, I know how to make a div as an inline element. I will use display property, right? I will use display property and I will write inline, and what will happen is that this divs will start to behave as a inline element. Now what I want is that I want multiple elements to be arranged in a particular fashion. I don't want them in a line. I want them to be arranged in some fashion of rows and columns. Okay, to do that, to arrange multiple elements in a particular container, we use the concepts of Flexbox. Now, whenever you imagine a box, there are 2 axes which are associated with it. I know, going some complex things, but yeah, I know these things are like going out of mind, but when we go to the code, you will understand it. But theory, this is the theory beyond it. Okay, so whenever you imagine a box, whenever you imagine a set of items which are involved in a Flexbox, there are 2 axes like associated with it, and we call the 2 axes as main axis, and the second one is cross axis. Now to imagine that, let us take a scenario that, okay, I am having my web page, plain web page, nothing. There is nothing in my web page. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is that I will create a box. Let's say in this plain web page, let's say that I'm creating a div of 50 pixels width and 50 pixels height. Okay, and I'm placing it in the center of the page. In the center of the page, I'm placing my div. So what will happen is that my div will get created here. Let's say the background color of this div is yellow, so this div color will become background color will become yellow. Now if you imagine this box, this div as a Flexbox model, then it will have 2 axes associated with it, and these are imaginary axes. These are not like real, you cannot see them, but we have to visualize it, we have to like understand it in our head. Okay, so if you give property as display flex, then what will happen is that when you give display flex, then for this div, for this particular div, there will be 2 axes associated with it. We call the horizontal axis as the main axis. This will become our main axis, and the vertical axis will become our cross axis, or you can call it also secondary axis, but most of the times we use the term cross axis. So the horizontal axis is main axis, and the vertical axis by default, right, this is by default, right? If you wanna change main vertical axis as main axis, you can do that, but by default in CSS, when you give for a particular div, for a particular box, or for a particular container, when you give display flex, then for that container the horizontal axis will become main axis and the vertical line will become cross axis, and that block, that container will start to behave as a Flexbox model. And for that Flexbox model, you can apply your own properties. There are different properties which we will talk, but when you give display flex, then that container will start to behave as a flex container. okay? Or let's say in this case we are taking a div, which is basically a block. Then that block, that box will start to behave as a flex box. I hope you are clear. I know that initially this will not be like, it will create some sort of confusion what are the things we are talking about, but believe me, in few minutes we will talk about the code, and I have created our code in such a way that you will understand it in a very simple sense. Okay, so yeah, whenever we create a div container, there will be two access associated with a flex box. Let's say we are giving the property as display flex, then when we give display flex, it will have two accesses associated with it. First one is main access, second one is cross access. Okay, clear? Now let us move to a general example. Now I have taken an example to understand the Flexbox in a very simple sense. I have taken a very simple example, and through this example now we will go to our code. Okay, so what I have created in my code is that, first of all, I have created a parent div, or you can call it as div is nothing but a container, right? It will store other elements. The work of a div is to store other elements. Okay, so I have created a parent container. Okay, I have created a parent container. Let's say that I'm creating parent container, and here I'm giving class is equals to parent. Now inside that I am creating child containers. Okay, I'm not giving any particular class, but inside that div I am creating containers. So here I will create div 1. Let's say this is my div 1, and div 2, div 3. Like this I'm creating n number of child containers, child blocks inside it. Okay, so by default what will happen is that I will have my container, and the next container will come here, and the next container will come under that, because div is a block element. It will occupy the entire width. Okay, irrespective of what is parent, what is child, div will occupy the entire width, and the next div will come after it, the next div will come after it. Like this the element will get arranged. Now if you observe, I want you guys to create this structure, right? Pause the video right now, create a external parent div, inside that create child divs, and give like random colors to parent div and child divs. Let's say I'm giving background color as black, and this one as yellow, this one as red, this one as blue. Now if you apply this structure, if you see the output of the structure, then what will happen is that, first of all, my parent div will be like this. What is the color of parent div? Black, right? So I will paint the background color as black. Okay, like this the div will come. This is my parent div. Now what will happen is that inside that div the child element should come, but because div is a block element, the next child element will come after parent element. Now in the output screen what will happen is that yellow color, right? So my first child will have yellow color background, this is my child 1, and the next child will have red color, right? So I will choose here red color, this is red color. Okay, the next div will have red color, this is child 2, and the child 3 will have blue color. Okay, child 3 will have a blue color, this is child 3. This is what our structure will look like. If you are giving some sample width and sample height, then you will get this structure in your screen. I hope you are clear. Now this is by default. CSS will make the first element as parent, after the next element like this will come, because div is a block element. Now what I will do in my code, in my CSS, is that I will use display property. To apply Flexbox model we have to use display, and for that we know already, like we have used display block, display inline. Now in the place of display I will give flex. So I will give here in the parent class, this is my parent class, right? So in the CSS I will write parent, and inside that I will give display flex. And when I write this now, the element this will become a parent element, and this child 1, child 2, child 3 will come inside that element, and you can observe that the elements, the child elements, are associated in a single dimension. Okay, so for this container, right, this is the parent container, right? So in the parent container, this will become my main axis and this will become my cross axis. Okay, enough theory. Now let us go to code. So in the code, I have provided you in the comment section GitHub link. By clicking that, you will get this code. Okay, so in the code, what I have created is that I have created a parent container. Inside that, I want to show RGB colors, right? 7 colors. So the first color is indigo, so I am giving for the first child as my violet color, right? I am giving inline style. After that, next element, next div. After that, blue color, green color, yellow color, orange and red. This is my simple HTML. Now after that, I have attached my styling to style.css. Now in the style.css, I have given some default properties for containers. I have given the container height as 300 pixels with 80%, background azure. You will see the output. And for h1, I have written h1 flexbox playground, and for the playground I have aligned that item in the center. Okay, now after that, for my child elements, I have given some default height as 100 pixel with 100 pixel. Okay, now let us see this output. I will run this. You can see that we got the output. This is my parent div and this is the flexbox background, h1 tag, and violet color, indigo color, blue color, green color, yellow, orange, red. Now I can't see the text of violet, green, so this is kind of unclear, right? So let me change the text color here. So in the CSS, let's say I'm giving color as white and font size, let's say I want to increase the font size 1.5 em. I'm increasing the overall font size, and yeah, let us save this and see our output. You can see that now the text is violet, indigo, blue, green, orange and red. Okay, so let us say that I want to align my text in the center, so I will use align text and I will use center here. Then my text will come in the okay, so you can see that my text will come in the center of the divs, child divs. Okay, like this I have given my output, right? This is my text inside the 7 different divs. Okay, now to understand Flexbox properties, you need to observe that. Let us click inspect and observe our container. I want to observe my container. Now if you observe the container, the outer container is having some default height as 300 pixels and width as 80% of the overall screen. Okay, now if you observe the child elements as well, you can observe that for child element the height is 100 pixel and the width is also 100 pixel, and the next element, because div is a block element, the next element will coming after indigo. After the next element is coming after like indigo, right? After violet the indigo is coming, and after indigo the blue color is coming, and for each and every individual child elements the height is 100 pixel and the width is 100 pixel. Okay, very clear. Now you will observe that because the div, the parent div height is 300 pixels, the overall height of the parent div is 300 pixel, that is why only 3 child elements are coming inside it. And after that the next element is going out of parent element. After the next element is going out, similarly orange is also going out, red is also going out. Now what I want is that I don't want my elements go out of my parent block. I don't want this green, orange, okay, I don't want this green, yellow, orange, red divs to go out of my parent container. What I can do here? I can use the properties of Flexbox. So in the parent container, this is the parent container, right? So here I will give display and I will write flex. Now let me save and see our output. You can see that all my elements are coming in the same, inside the same parent element, parent container, right? And these elements are coming in a single line, single dimension. That is why the formal definition of Flexbox is that it is a one-dimensional layout structure for arranging elements in rows and columns, right? So when you give display flex, then the element will automatically will have some default size and the elements will get arranged in a single dimension, right? So if I remove here, let's say I'm removing flex, display flex, and go to my output. Now you can see that the elements are again going outside of my, so in the VS Code, let's say here now I'm giving display flex. Now when I give display flex, then what will happen is that the elements will come in the single line. Now if you, one more thing is that you need to observe here is that if you observe the overall properties of the elements right now, you can see that the elements are coming in a single direction and each child element is having 100 pixel, 100 pixel. Now I want to show you something. Okay, so for child elements, let's say I am increasing the width by 400 pixels. I am putting the width as 400 pixels. Now go to your output screen. Now you can see that when I give 400 pixels, each and every element is not having 400 pixels. The child, each child is having a width of 139.38 pixels. Why? Because Flexbox will not let element go out of the parent boundaries. That is why whatever the space we are having, we are dividing that into 7 equal spaces, and within that 7 equal spaces I am having the elements inside my parent div, and each parent or each child element is having 139.8 pixels. Now if you multiply it by what? By 7, then you will get the overall width of your container, and the overall width of your container is 907.61 pixel. That is 80% of my overall body. I hope you have understood that if the child elements are going beyond your parent container, then what will Flex model will do is that it will divide your elements in, let's say I am having 7 elements, then it will divide the 7 elements equally and it will give some default height and default width to your containers, to your children containers, children blocks, whatever. I hope you have understood. So you can observe clearly that 400 pixels is not getting applied. Why? Because of Flexbox model. Okay, I hope you have understood how Flexbox models work. Now let us dive into the properties of Flexbox model. And the very first property of Flexbox model is Flexbox Direction. Okay, so what is Flexbox Direction? We already know that we have 2 axes. We have 2 accesses, right? So let us consider that this is my parent container, and inside that parent container I am having 3 child containers which are assigned something like this. Okay, I have given display for parent element, and I have given display as flex, and when I give display as flex, we will have some default main axis and cross axis, right? This is my main axis and this will become my cross axis. Okay, now when I give Flexbox Direction row, let's say this is my div1, div2, div3. Okay, now when I give row, now the element will be assigned in row wise and it will start from left to right, which means that the first element will come on the most left side. After the second element come, after the next element come, so the last element will be on the extreme right hand side, and the very first element will be on the extreme left hand side of my parent container. Now if I give row reverse, then what will happen is that the first element will be on the right side and the last element will be on the left side of my main axis. Okay, now if I give display, okay, flexbox direction column, then the element will be assigned to my cross axis, or my main axis will become my cross axis. So this will become my main axis and this will become my cross axis now, and the elements will come div1, div2, div3, something like this. Now if I give, let's say I am giving column reverse, then the element will come here 1, 2 and 3. So the elements will be assigned vertically on column wise. Okay, so let us see this. So this is the model I am having, right? Each element is having some width, and these are aligned in a single dimension. Now what I will do is that I will remove this. Okay, so this is the elements we are seeing. Now in the VS Code I will give here, let's say that I am giving flex direction row, and here I want to decrease the overall width 100 pixel, because we want to understand how elements are assigning from left to right. When I give row, the elements will get assigned from left to right. The filling will start from left to right. Okay, so let us see the output. You can see that the first element is coming on the left side. After that, the elements are going in this flow. Now if I give here row reverse and save this, go to the output screen, you can observe that the elements are starting from the right side, of my main axis. Okay, now if I give here column, then what will happen is that the element will start from vertically from top to down. So here let me save and see. You can observe that the elements are coming from top to down, and the first element is coming at the very top and the last element is coming at the very bottom. Okay, now if I give here column reverse, let's say I am giving column reverse, save this, go to your output screen. Now you will observe that the first element is coming at the very bottom and the last element is coming at the very top. When you give column, now when you give flex direction column, then what will happen is that your axes will get flipped by 180 degrees, which means that your cross axis will become your horizontal line and the main axis will become now vertical line. Okay, I hope you have understood how flex direction works. Now let us talk about some other properties. Okay, so the next property is justify content. So we have multiple child divs inside our container, right? Now let's say that I wanna arrange or create some space along the main axis. So justify content is used to tell the browser how to distribute space between and around items along the main axis. You need to remember, justify content is related to main axis. So whatever you do, it will only happen based on the main axis. The changes will happen with respect to the main axis. Okay, in justify content we have three different properties: flex start, flex end and center. So let us observe how this will work. So here in the parent div I will write row. Okay, row. Now I will write justify content. Let's say I am giving flex start. Then what will happen is that the filling will start on the left side. So let us see the output. You can see that the filling of the elements is happening on the left side and the whole right side is empty. Now if I give flex end, the arrangement, this whole 7 child divs will go towards the left end. So here let's say I am giving flex end. Now what will happen is that the whole elements will go on the left side. So justify content will tell you how you're gonna distribute this child elements inside your container. Okay, now if I give here, let's say that I'm giving center, then what will happen is that all the elements will come in the middle of the parent container. Like this we will apply justify content properties. I hope you have understood. Very simple property, but the only thing you need to keep in mind is that justify content will work with respect to the main axis. Okay, this is the main axis. Now when this is the element, let's say this is the flexbox element. Now when you give flex start, then it will go on the left side. When you give flex end, the element will go on the right side. When you give flex center, the element will come right in the center of your parent container. With respect to parent container, the element will come in the middle, and all the changes will happen based on main axis. So the next property is flex wrap. Okay, the next property is flex wrap, and this is a very interesting property, because if you notice, when I give for each and individual child elements, when I give, let's say I have given width as 400 pixels, right? Even though I have given 400 pixels, the width is not getting applied in my parent element. I will show you what I mean. So here, let's say in the place of 100 pixel, I am giving let's say 400 pixel. Now what will happen is that for each and every child element, the width of this block should be 400 pixel, but this will not get applied. Why? Because your parent is not having that much space. When your parent is not having that much width, then what Flexbox will do is that it will divide all your elements, and it will redistribute, it will give equal widths to all your parent element. Now go to your output screen. You will observe that all the elements will have some equal distributed width, and the value of that width is 139.38 pixels. Why this thing is happening is because Flexbox understands that, okay, the space is not enough for the parent container. If the space is not enough for the parent container, then what we should is that we should redistribute the space, and for each and every child we should give some equal spaces. Now I don't want this equal spaces to happen. I want what I am giving in my VS Code, I want that to be happen in my screen, and at the same time I want to follow my Flexbox properties. Then I will use the concept of flex wrap. Okay, so in flex wrap is used to set whether flex items are forced onto a line or can wrap. So for example, when I have given 400 pixels, the elements are coming like this. 400 pixels is not getting applied, and I want that thing to get applied. Then what will happen is that when I give flex wrap as wrap, then the next element will not exceed parent container. It will basically come in the next line. That's all. So what will happen is that when I give 400 pixels, the element will be 400, and the next element, if there is no space here, the next element will come on the next line. This is the work of flex wrap. Okay, now let us apply flex wrap onto my my 7 colors div structure. Yeah, so in the code here, I have given width as 400 pixels, but the problem is this 400 pixels is not getting applied. Now what I will do is that here I will write flex wrap, and I will give initially no wrap. No wrap means you're not applying any wrap. Now if I give no wrap, then nothing will happen. The elements will not have 400 pixel width. Now if I give here, in the place of no wrap, I will give wrap. Save and go to your code. Now you will observe that here the elements is having some spacing, right? The first element is having 400 pixel, the next element is having 400 pixel, 400 pixel, 400, and because there is no space in my container, that is why the element red is coming in the outside of my container, because there is no space that is to be allocated. Okay, I hope you got the point here, right? Now I wanna, let's say I don't want elements to go out of my container, so I will give 300 pixel, or okay, 300 pixel will be good. So let us see. Yeah, now inside the div, each child element is having 300 pixel, 300 pixel, 300, 300. Like this, flex wrap works. It will redistribute elements, and if there is no space, then the elements will come in the next line, in the next row basically, right? I hope you have understood working of flex wrap. Now let us talk about other property. So the next element, the next property is align element. Okay, align element. Now what this will do is that, let's say for a particular element I want to change something related to that particular element, then I will use align item property. So to change a particular thing for a group of elements, or to be specific for an individual element, we use the concept of align item. Okay, and in that we have again justify content, like same thing, right? Okay, let us see align item. So here, okay, so to see how align items works, what align item will do is that it will change. It is very similar to justify content. It will also make a group of elements or an individual element to change with respect to parent element, with respect to parent container. So here I will give align items. Let's say here I am giving, I want at the end of the parent container I want to start elements, right? So here I will give end, and you will see that the elements will come at the end side of my parent container. So let us see. You will observe that the element is now coming, yellow is coming at the end of my parent container, and like this the elements are coming. Now if I give baseline now, then what baseline will do is that baseline, and let's say that when I give baseline, the element will go on the top of your parent. Now here let's say I am giving flex start, then flex start will push the elements towards the starting point, right? So this is the starting point. With respect to the starting point, the elements will move. And you might ask why they are not moving, because I have given justify as center. So if I remove justify center, then now the elements will move on the start. So you will observe that the elements have moved towards the start. Like this, align content is very similar to, align items is very similar to justify content. Align content. Okay, align content. The next property is align content. So what align content will do is that it will try to create space in between and around a particular child. So in the example, in the code which we have taken, we have 7 different colors, and if you observe that there is no spacing between the 7 different colors, they are attached with one another. Now to create the space between the container, between the parent and the child, we use this property. Okay, and you need to remember that this is related to cross axis. So whatever the changes will happen, that will happen with respect to my cross axis, with respect to my vertical axis, the changes will happen. Okay, so let us see how this will work. So here I will remove align items, okay, and justify center. Now what I will do is that I will write align content, and let's say that I want to give space around. Then what will happen is that it will create some space around each and every element. So let us see what will happen. Okay, you can see that between parent and div the space is here. Between again some next div there is some space. Now if I give space between, then it will create space between elements. So you will see that okay, the element is having space in between them. Now here let's say I want to decrease the height. Because of height the elements are coming 100 pixel 100 pixel. Now see what is happening here. The parent, okay, you can see that the overall space between the elements has increased. Okay, now you need to remember that all the things here for align content is happening with respect to y-axis, with respect to my cross axis. Okay, so the difference between justify content and align content is that justify content is associated with main axis and align content is associated with cross access. This is the only difference between these two. If you understood justify content, then you will innately understand, you will like naturally understand align content. Okay, the difference is justify is for main access, align content is for cross access. Now the next property is align self. So align self is a property which is used to change a particular item, a single item with respect to cross access. Okay, and in align self we have 4 different things: flex start, flex end, center and baseline. So let us see how this will work. Okay, so here I will come here, and now what I will do is that I will remove all these things. I will keep row and I will remove all these things. Now for each and every element, let's say here for blue I am giving id is equals to blue. Now for this what I will do is that I will write here. Okay, so for my, let's say, blue color which I have given some id that is blue, I am giving styling, so I will write container and hashtag blue. In this, let's say I am changing the overall height of my container, blue container, so I will write height 300 pixel and width as 100 pixel. Okay, so let me save and see the output. You will observe that the blue is now having 300 pixel height and width as 100 pixel. Okay, now for this element I want this element, let's say, okay, I don't want this to occupy the entire space, 200 pixel will be good. Okay, now you will observe that the element is now having 200 pixel, 100 pixel width. Now I want this element to come at the last, then here I will give align self as end, right, flex end, and see what the output is. You will observe that the element is now coming at the end. With respect to y-axis, the element is coming at the end side. Like this, we apply our align self property, and align self is used to change one particular item, whatever the item might be, within the flex box with respect to y-axis. So this change will happen with respect to y-axis. Now here let's say I am giving center and go to your output. You will see that the element will come with respect to y-axis at the very center of my parent container. I hope you have understood how flex align self works in Flexbox model. So the final property of our Flexbox model is flex sizing. So using the concept of flex sizing, we can change the initial you can say width and height basically of a particular container, of a particular child elements with respect to parent element, right? So flex basis is used to set the initial main size of your flex items. Now what will happen, let's say I am giving flex basis as 100 pixel. So initially inside that all the child elements will have default size as 100 pixels. Similarly, when I write flex shrink, then what will happen is that the element will get shrink by, let's say, 100 pixel. Then with respect to initial size, the element will now get shrinked by 100 pixel. Okay, right? Similarly, if I give flex grow, then let's say I am giving 100 pixel, then with respect to initial item size, the element will get like bigger by 100 pixel. So this is how grow and shrink will work. Now what you have to do is that to apply this, go to the code. I have provided you like CSS and HTML, right? So write flex basis 100 pixel. Now initially when you give flex basis 100 pixel, the elements will have initial size as 100 pixels. Okay, now when you give flex shrink, then with respect to initial size, the element will get shrinked by the value you have given, right? Let's say I am giving flex expand 100 pixel, the element will get expanded with respect to initial position by 100 pixel. This is how flex sizing will work. So this is about Flexbox model. I hope you have understood the overall concept. These are the main concepts of Flexbox model, and they are like numerous concepts, right? We cannot like memorize all those, but we can understand, right? These are the fundamentals of my Flexbox model. If you understand this now, then you will understand the upcoming things also. And I want you guys to do one thing. After this session, go to our website. Here I have already opened, so here go to a website, MDN Flexbox, right? You will get the website of MDN Flexbox. Yeah, so this is the website of MDN Flexbox. Now just go through and read the study material of this. I will provide you this link in the comment section. Just read it out, and you know, they have understood, they have explained you in a very clear fashion, in a very simple fashion, right? And yeah, this is about Flexbox model, how this will work in a very simple terms in just 50 minutes. So I will stop. This is the concept I had about Flexbox. In the next session, which is going to be our last session on CSS, in the next session we are going to talk about what is grid. So this is grid. Here you can see that this is the next topic, grid. So grids are used to arrange elements in two-dimensional fashion. In Flexbox we arrange elements in a single dimension. Grid is used to arrange in elements in two-dimensional. We will study later, and after it we'll talk about what is animations in CSS, how we can apply animation effect in CSS, and the last topic will be media queries. That's all. Okay, so with that being said, I will see you in the next chapter. I hope you have understood this session. So yeah, see you in the next chapter.